Hello, welcome to Lil's Vintage World and welcome to one of my classic crime book reviews where I take a bunch of classic crime books and review them for you. It's as simple as that. However, in this video I've got 4 classic crime books and then I have a modern crime book. So I'm going to talk about the modern one first. I generally don't read modern crime books because they tend to scare the living poop out of me, to be honest. I remember that I read this one book that I guess was like a crime/thriller, and it was called The Art of Murder, and it was amazing. It was 5 stars. It's fantastic. It was set in modern day, but like it was crimes that were like almost like reimagining Jack the Ripper kind of style. And as I said, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I whizzed through it so quickly. I was absolutely hooked, absolutely addicted to it. I couldn't put it down. However, I remember every time I read it, I was like doing this. I was like looking over my shoulder because I mean, I do have quite a vivid imagination, but it really got in my head and it scared me so much. So even if a book is 5 stars, generally I don't go near it. But if you're interested in like crime/thrillers, read The Art of Murder. It's fantastic. However, my husband knows this about me, and for Mother's Day this year, my puppy instructed my husband to go to the local supermarket that has quite a nice book section and to pick me up some books for Mother's Day. So that's what I had. So I had a couple of books and I have read one of them already, and it is Nice Skills for Beginners by Orlando Murren. Now my husband said he was stood in the book aisle looking at all the reviews for the books to make sure it was one that I would enjoy. So that's really, really kind of him. So this is about this man called Paul, who is approached by his friend Christian, and they're both chefs. They both work in like the culinary world, and Christian approaches Paul and says, look, I'm meant to be doing this culinary school thing, like a residential school, you know, when they have this house and you know you do classes during the day but then you sleep there and then you have meals together and all that type of thing, and you get to like know, like I suppose your mini cohort, like one of those type things. And he's like, I'm meant to be doing this one but I can't, can you do it for me, but I will come in and help you and all this. And Paul kind of goes, yeah, okay, but then like no help comes to him. He's like, right, I'm gonna go and talk to him, I'm gonna go and like confront him, and then guess what, he's dead. He's been bumped off in quite a gruesome way, not for us the reader, but like his death wouldn't have been nice, put it that way, but for us like reading it, it's not gory or anything. I was perfectly fine reading it. And then our main character ends up getting arrested for his murder because he's the one that discovers the body, and I think statistically wise the person that discovers the body is most likely the assailant. I don't know if that is still true, but that at one point was the case. And yeah, he gets arrested. But did he do it? Dun dun dun. This book is Orlando Murren's first novel, and in this novel we occasionally have recipes as well, which was quite interesting to read. So for instance, right at the beginning, before the prologue, we have Parmesan bites. I don't like Parmesan, so anyway, so yeah, random tangent. So yeah, there's small recipes interspersed in between the chapters, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the ending and the wrap up. I thought that was very clever. I did, however, get confused with the characters because, of course, it's a culinary school, so there's quite a lot of characters and I kept getting a bit muddled up. Saying that, I did enjoy it, and for someone's like first go, I thought actually, yeah, pretty good. Would recommend. Okay, now I'm going to get to the actual classic crime books, starting with a Patricia Wentworth. This is The Amazing Chance by Patricia Wentworth. It's a standalone novel of hers. As you may or may not know, I have read all of her novels that she wrote under as Miss Silver, with the character Miss Silver. This is a standalone from 1926, and this is about a man who has an accident, and then following the accident he wakes up and he doesn't know who he is. He's either Jack or Jim, and they're cousins and they have very different lives. This is kind of like romance meets mystery. I wouldn't call it a crime novel per se. And for me, this book dragged. I think because for me, the Miss Silver novels really, really stand out. I find her standalones are really hit and miss. Mostly miss, to be honest. But there have been like the occasional one or two that I have thought are really good. And I enjoyed the writing style because I enjoy Patricia Wentworth's writing style, but it did drag for me. It's definitely not a favourite. It is similar to a Miss Silver novel, actually. I wrote it down, hold on. She Came Back. She Came Back. But the Miss Silver novel is done so much better than this. Would I recommend it? Probably not, and only unless, you know, you want to read everything by Patricia Wentworth, then I would say, yeah, I'd give it a go. Otherwise, perhaps not, unless that does sound like your type of thing. If you like mystery romance rather than crime, then I think you probably like it, but I wanted a crime. I wanted good old Patricia Wentworth crime, so hey ho, never mind. I mean, it wasn't bad, just 2 stars. And then the final 3 books are all from the same publisher. They were all kindly sent for me for review, so thank you to the British Library. These are all part of the British Library Crime Classics series. I have got a little bit behind on reviewing these, and I do need to catch up, but I'm going to talk about them in order in which I read them. So I'm probably going to pronounce, like, absolutely butcher this name. Crook O'Lun, A Lancashire Mystery by E.C.R. Lorak. Is that correct? Probably not. I gave it a whirl. So this is about Inspector MacDonald, who is on leave in Lancashire, and he's looking for a house to eventually retire to. That's his plans. And then while he's there, some sheep get stolen, and then there's a house fire that takes place in which the housekeeper is killed and some valuable documents are destroyed. But clearly that fire is not an accident. So what are the crimes that are going on in this sleepy Lancashire village? Dun dun dun. This was a real countryside feely book, you know, where the countryside itself becomes someone that you're reading about, like a character on its own right. If you love reading about the countryside, you'll really love this book, because it reminded me a bit like Thomas Hardy, you know, that there'll be just paragraphs of just descriptions of the countryside and the surrounding area, which is not personally my taste, but I know lots of people obviously do really enjoy that. So there's that in it itself, and I'm sure lots of people would absolutely love that. For me, this book was quite slow paced, but I don't think this book would work fast paced with the way that it's written, because I think the slow pacedness of it matches like the countryside setting, because everything, you think of everything done in the countryside is done a bit of like a slower pace than it would be done in a big city. So I think that kind of matches each other out. And although I did enjoy this book, I just don't think it's for me. For me, it's a bit too slow, a bit too descriptive. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a big fan of Thomas Hardy either. I mean, I liked it, didn't love it, but I can see people absolutely adoring this book. If you're a fan of crimes set in the countryside, I think you will really, really enjoy it. I think it'll be right up your street. Okay, the next book, I am not going to try and pronounce the title of this because I will get it wrong, but it is Classic Mystery Titles of Wales, edited by Martin Edwards. So Crimes of, that's Wales in Welsh. But I can't say any Welsh at all, and I don't want to offend anybody, so short stories by Welsh authors. this is a short story collection, and I always feel really hit and miss with short story collections, but I have to say I really, really enjoyed this. Short story collections for me, I feel like I've got under my belt now, because I read them really, really slowly. This I read over months, absolute months, but I was just picking up a story every now and then, every time I kind of fancied it. And you know, there were some stories in here that I gave 2 stars, but there was one in here that I gave 5 stars that I was like, this cannot be improved. This is amazing. And that was the second one, which is Water Running Out by Ethel Lena White, which is about a little party where something criminal happens. But the writing was just so spectacular and not what I was expecting, and took me surprise, and I was like, I want to read every single thing by this author from now on. But there are so many authors in here that I had never heard of, and some that I had that I'd read some things by before, and again I really enjoyed. So there's a Roald Dahl in here, there's a Christina Brand in here. Christina Brand has been republished by the British Library as part of the Crime Classics, so it's nice to read more stuff by her. And yeah, I really actually surprisingly enjoyed myself, and I think the thing about things like this is this would make a wonderful present for someone. If you know that they are interested in crime novels, then this is perfect, because there's going to be a short story in here that they're going to love and read and reread and reread, like I will for the Ethel Lena White short story Water Running Out. Oh, that's so good. And then last but not least, this book, I am really struggling to work out why this book ever went out of print in the first place, and I really need to talk about this. So this is Fear Stalks the Village by Ethel Lena White. Now, as I said, I'm a little bit behind on reading these books that have been very kindly sent to me from the publisher, but I am catching up slowly. Now, this book arrived, and usually when a newer book arrives from the collection, I put it at the bottom of the pile and, I pick off the top. With this book, I did not do that. It arrived, I read the synopsis on the back, and I opened the front page and I started reading, and I just carried on reading. And I read a good chunk the first day, and I was like, right, I might as well just carry on reading it now. When I tell you what this book is about, you'll completely understand why. So, Fear Stalks the Village is very similar to novels that I love. Are you ready? It is about a sleepy English village in which everyone knows everyone's business. Everyone knows what time so-and-so couple are going to go to play tennis, what time so-and-so is going to walk their dog, what time so-and-so is going to play piano or whatever. Everyone knows everyone, and you are most likely born there, you most likely die there. If you've lived there for like 10 years, you're still classed as a newbie, and it's one of those villages. And then we have a poison pen writer that starts spreading their gossip in the village, and then a death that subsequently follows on from these poison pen writers. Now, that description will actually also be the description of 2 other novels that I love. So one is The Moving Finger by Agatha Christie, which is a Miss Marple novel. I do this because Miss Marple is in it for like the last 1/5 of the book. It's not really, it's a standalone. It would have been amazing if she'd have been in it all the way through, but she's not, so it isn't. The other one is Poison the Pen by Patricia Wentworth, which is my favourite Miss Silver novel, and Miss Silver is in it all the way through, and it's spectacular. And so I was like, oh, it sounds just like those 2. That is why I just started reading it, and oh wow. This is incredible. Now, I will say, as I said about the short story collections, the Welsh short story collections, I didn't work out that my favourite short story in that was the same author that wrote this. It wasn't until I got to the end and I thought, this writing is pretty spectacular and it feels very, very similar. And then I went to that book and I went, I have read something by her. And I read the one that I gave 5 stars to. So it took a lot of time for it to click in. But the writing style of this is what makes this book so unique. And I want to read you a little bit. I don't usually, in these like combined reviews, but I have to. Are we ready? So it is right at the beginning. The village was beautiful. It was enfolded in a hollow of downs and wrapped up snugly, first in a floral shawl of gardens, and then a great green shawl of fields. Lilies and lavender grew in abundance. Bees clustered over sweet-scented herbs with the hum of a myriad of spinning wheels. Isn't that lovely? The writing style kind of reminded me of somewhere like between Nancy Spain and Dorothy L. Sayers. And what I mean by that is you read a Nancy Spain and you could be reading for like 150, 200 pages and then the crime happens and you're like, oh my goodness, yes, I'm reading a crime book. And Dorothy L. Sayers, I feel like she has this writing style that could blend to any genre at all. And I feel like Ethelina White sits with those terrific authors because the writing is just beautiful. I loved so much about this. I mean, the only thing that I have to say that I didn't quite enjoy to give it the 5 star, I gave it 4.5, is that I wanted more crime. Like there's crime that takes place, don't get me wrong, but I wanted more. I was hungry for more, and I think it's her writing that makes me want it in a very weird, I know that sounds very weird for me to say, but not a nice thing for me to say either, but the writing of how she was describing things was just so spectacular that I was just like, I want more, more, more. I didn't want it to end. Our detective, our sleuth, has an amazing name, Ignatius Brown. I love the fact that we have such an amazing first name, Ignatius, with Brown. It just works so well. And I now want to read everything by Ethelina White because this book was wonderful. This book, actually, for me, rating-wise, now sits in between The Moving Finger and Poison the Pen. Poison the Pen still just about clinches it, but this is a very, very close second. And it is, for me, head and shoulders above The Moving Finger by Agatha Christie. So take that what you will, because you know how much I love Christie. So there we have it. Read it. So there we go. Those are some crime books that I have been reading recently. Let me know if you have read any of these. Let me know if you're going to put any of these on your wish list. I'd be intrigued to know. So thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I shall see you soon for my next video. Bye for now.